Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here again.
Wonderful to have you once more. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about Pluto's aspects.
Yes.
So Pluto is one of our favorite planets. Why wouldn't it be? It's in every chart. It's in your chart, my chart. We've all got it. Wow. And it may or may not have some aspects. So we're just going to be talking about some of the aspects and how Pluto connects and plugs itself into your chart.
Yes.
So it's a little different. It's not just the planet Pluto. It's not just a particular aspect. We're going to try and differentiate perhaps even between, some of the aspects and how this energy could be used in your chart.
Absolutely. And obviously we're going to get into a little bit just first about what Pluto means in your chart. I mean, Pluto it's the final sign in the solar system. If you are looking at unless you're going like old school and the Saturn is the end. Well, come on, no. Pluto for us as astrologers is still a planet.
Yes.
Not to astronomers. We're not going to say dwarf planet because it is a planet.
No, we're never going to say that.
No, we aren't. No, Mike Brown can.
He can bang his drum as much as he likes.
Exactly, it's fine. Pluto, we're on Team Pluto, and Pluto represents intense transformation.
Yes.
Deep psychological changes, the exploration of hidden truths, death, life, rebirth, the cycles of reincarnation, if you swing that way, and if you don't, then it is the delving into the subconscious and the unconscious and bringing up the things that motivate you. It's associated with Scorpio because it is one of the rulers of Scorpio. It's the modern ruler of Scorpio along with Mars. And its influence, regardless of what house it's in, but its influence on your chart, especially through aspects, can supercharge whatever planets it touches and add an incredible amount of intensity to whatever area of life is represented by the planets that it touches. Mm-hmm. And that can make you an incredibly intense person, depending on what area of your chart it's lighting up and intensifying. Yeah. And there's this Plutonian people. Like, are you a Plutonian person? Well, that everyone has Pluto. It's always going to be in a sign. It's always going to be in a house, but it might not make any aspects. You therefore are not Plutonian unless you have like a zillion things in Scorpio. Yes. But if Pluto makes a whole bunch of aspects in your chart, hello Pluto. Yes, it makes itself known big time.
Yeah, I think so.
Through its connections with other planets.
Yes, and here we're talking about the natal chart. We're not really talking about transits at all.
Exactly. That'll be another day.
That's just a conversation for another day. So what we're talking about is Pluto making aspects within your natal chart. Yeah. And by the nature of those aspects, whether or not it steps forward or not, depending, of course, where it is in the chart and so on, and how influential Pluto is to start with. Before we even consider aspects. So, for instance, if you have Scorpio rising, then Pluto is influential. Isn't that right, Arwynne?
I mean, from personal experience, I would say so, yeah.
Yes, and that's because Arwynne's got Scorpio rising.
So if you have Scorpio rising, you would like to definitely make a note of what house Pluto is in for you and what aspects it makes for you.
Mm-hmm. I have it too. My sister has this. One of my daughters has this. And I would say Scorpionic, Plutonic, yes, and they're both pretty strong, yeah. As you are, to be honest. If you're not
taking life and death into your hands every minute, what are you even doing on this
planet? And so we've got this, it's the beginning of life, it's the end of life.
Yeah.
It's
remaking yourself. It's taking control
born
of
again.
Yourself. Exactly, being reborn, born again, reimagining,
rejuvenating yourself.
It's taking control and the desire to also control and influence other people.
Yes.
That's a light side, dark side. I mean, Pluto with Pluto, we're always going to have a light side and a dark side, and the light side is going to be depending on how well you manage that intensity.
Yes.
Because if you have a lot of Pluto connections or some just very close Pluto connections in your chart, you might not know how to handle it.
Yeah.
You might be one of these people who just wreaks destruction and disruption everywhere you go. And you might be one of those people who people call a psychic vampire. Or you might want to control others because you've never felt a lot of control over your own life. And these are all pitfalls of having a very strong Pluto, but maybe not a well-integrated Pluto.
Right.
And we will talk about that.
That's right.
But there's a desire to understand the dark side.
Right.
And to know other people's secrets and to maybe control them if you're not that ethical
to your
person.
benefit.
To your benefit, yeah. And maybe if you're kind of on the fence, like, light side, dark side wise, or, chaotic evil or whatever, if you want to say it in Dungeons and Dragons terms, you might want to control other people for their own good. And that's another weird aspect of Pluto that could happen.
Okay.
And it's also generational. I mean, Pluto aspects, like the famous Pluto conjunction of the 1960s, Pluto and Uranus. In Virgo. And that was like the marker of an entire generation. It was the Woodstock generation.
Yeah.
And there were like Generation X. There was a ton of people born with that aspect, and it really influenced their distrust of government, desire to kind of, keep things hidden, but yet also kind of be very edgy.
Yeah.
Jane Fonda, G.I. Jane, and,
Hanoi Jane.
Yeah, or Hanoi Jane, or whatever it was. And, Kurt Cobain and all that stuff. So, not that they were the same generation. We know they're not. I'm just saying, yeah, exactly. Either born with that aspect or living through that aspect and flavoring the way that is seen in future generations. So, yeah. And let's talk about mythology for just
let's
seconds.
do that.
So Pluto, a.k.a. Hades,
right,
a god of the underworld, Greek god of the underworld, and represents death and rebirth and all that is hidden, all that is necessary and inevitable in the world and in life and death, but yet also the mastery over that and the understanding that all things die, but yet being able to harness that knowledge for your own power and influence. And maybe that's about harnessing fear and using other people's fear against them on the dark side of it, or that kind of, seize the day thing where any day you could die and therefore you make the absolute most of life because you are utterly and essentially aware that any day you could be hit by a bus or a satellite could fall out of the sky and you could just be stricken. That's not a word. Stricken.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the positive side of Pluto, is just that knowledge and understanding that everything is mortality, but yet that is what makes life so precious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
It's quite a complex planet. It's got a lot going for it, and you see it more in people who've got engaged Plutos, which are those that have got well aspected Plutos that are connecting to other planets in their chart.
Yeah.
And this is really what we're saying, isn't it? What we're talking about here. That say you've got an unaspected Pluto, which is a planet that doesn't have aspects to any other planets.
Right.
It's just going to be, the cheese stands alone.
Yeah. What's the big deal?
Yes.
Why is everyone talking about death all the time? God, get over it.
So I think it does depend on the particular aspects you have, not only the aspect itself, but the aspect to the planet and how tight that aspect would be.
Yeah.
And if it's applying or separating. But those are subtleties that we can chat about later.
Sure.
Yeah.
And just to, because as we get into the different planetary aspects with Pluto, I'm going to be reading a bit from The Book of Pluto.
Yes.
By Stephen Forrest.
Okay.
Who is one of the gods of Pluto. I'm gonna not even hyperbolically, but just flat out say. And the subtitle of this book is Turning Darkness to Wisdom with Astrology.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, if you're a Plutonian person, those words will have resonance and depth. And if you're not, you're going, oh God, it's, I just want to know my daily chart, whatever.
Would you consider yourself a Plutonian person?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
And the reason for that is?
The reason for that is I have Scorpio rising.
Yes.
And I also
So it's your chart ruler.
It is my chart ruler. And I also have Pluto in the 11th house, conjunct Venus.
Yes.
So.
Powerful.
Yeah. I feel I feel Pluto. Yeah, it is.
I see it. I know it's there. I see it. I hear it.
Yeah,
It's
and I mean,
definitely-
we've talked about transits of Pluto, which we're not going to get into today.
No.
But I mean, I had Pluto transiting my ascendant when I was 11 years old. I was very young when I had this deep understanding of like, oh, you have power that you don't understand, and people think more deeply of you when they meet you. They think you've been through, stuff. And
Yes.
I didn't understand at age 11. I'm like, why are you looking at me like, and, I had people asking if have you had trauma? Have you been, abused? I'm like, no, I had a great childhood. What are you talking about? But there was just, they saw this like intensity or wisdom or, like depth or something in my eyes or whatever, and didn't know how to interpret it. And I was always, being kind of cast in this, oh, she's a bad influence. I was so not a bad influence. I was a great influence, but like the parents of my friends
But that is the perception.
at age 11, they didn't know what to do. They just thought, ooh, yikes, what's this girl up to?
Yeah.
And I was at that age, not up to much,
Yeah.
But
Morticia Adams, or is it? Not Morticia, the other one. Wednesday.
Little Wednesday,
Little
absolutely.
Wednesday.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Pluto.
Hey, pod friends. Jen from the Halfway to Dead podcast here. Quick break for some real talk. Midlife is freaking hard, am I right? Are you ready to ditch the BS, flip the script, and finish this life strong? Of course you are. Join me to listen to real conversations that don't shy away from the hard, messy stuff. And yeah, we get a little woo-woo along the way. Let's hit the road on this midlife spiritual journey together. Halfway to Dead, served up with humor and heart. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
But even today, you do emanate it. You do. Yeah.
I mean, these days, I like to think that and this is the interesting thing too, because you absolutely grow into your aspects.
Yes.
So if you have Pluto aspects in your chart and you at first maybe didn't know how to handle them, or you were always in relationships that were like so intense and you're like, why is this taking over my life? I just want a boyfriend. And next thing you know, it's like you can't do anything else because you're just, this relationship is taking over everything in your life. Or you have an obsession with the Venus, Pluto,
Yes.
or you have an obsession with some sport or some competitive thing in your life, Pluto, Mars, and everything else is forfeit. Nothing else matters.
Right.
And why am I so obsessed? Why can't I just have a balanced life? Well, Pluto, and as you get older, those things become easier because you can integrate it and you come to actually accept and understand and appreciate that intensity is what fuels you. Mars intensity is one thing. That is like for the short sprints, but Pluto intensity can be amazing for like a long haul. And as someone who has Pluto conjunct Venus and who's been in a relationship for 27 years with a Scorpio, I can speak to the wonderfulness that can come with integrating that Pluto aspect.
Yeah.
And you.
Well, I've got Pluto. Yeah, my Pluto is trine Saturn, and sextile Neptune. That's the generational, the sextile Neptune.
Yeah, totally.
But I've got it trine Saturn, so
That's great.
it's I know it's not really a problem. It's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
It might be a problem for other people, but it's not a
Right.
problem for me.
I mean, I see power suit, businesswoman,
I can rock a blazer. I can.
Yeah,
And you know where you are with that. And but with the trine to Saturn, which is well placed too, I don't have, to be honest, I don't really have a problem with Saturn. I don't have a problem with Pluto in Virgo there.
Yeah.
And that's my major aspect that Pluto makes to my chart. So it doesn't have any hard aspects at all. It's just, I would say that in my life that I have come up against, birth and death as a thing, but this business of power thingy, I don't go down that road much myself.
I don't find myself to be power hungry at all, but I do find, weird. This is like oversharing probably, but in the Pluto Venus conjunction, there is, when you're younger, the desire to see your power over other people through their attraction to you.
Mm.
And as a young woman,
Yes, mistress.
right? I mean, the understanding that all of a sudden, just because someone finds you attractive, you have power over them is incredibly
Intoxicating?
intoxicating and it can be overwhelming for some people.
Yes.
And depending maybe on how Pluto is aspected in your chart, it can be a thing where you suddenly realize, oh my God, that's why I'm getting this kind of attention. No, shut it down. This is terrible. I'm going to cover up. I'm going to do everything I can to deflect this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this. Or you can be like, this is so easy. What can I do with this without manipulating or abusing people, because you don't want to, harm other people.
No.
But yeah, as a mature woman, then you kind of go, okay, that's the easy road. The easy road is just to be like, oh wow, everyone, kind of finds this aspect of my personality intoxicating and attractive, and yeah, you could lean into that, but let's lead with something else. Let's lead
take
with
the high road.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not like hex people,
No.
whatever. No. Yeah, and that's a Pluto lesson, is like, let's not hex people. Let's not manipulate people for your own little, ego.
Yes. Yes.
But I say that because I've seen the damage
It
that
happens.
you can do without meaning to, and then you kind of look back and you're like, oh God, that person probably didn't have a great experience with that relationship that I was, just casually toying with them or whatever, making them feel a certain way. And I don't think everyone comes to that realization as clearly. I think a lot of people kind of go, oh, I have power. Yes.
Yes.
Let's build a lifetime on being able to manipulate people because I have this, and then they suddenly think that they're like an Ubermensch, and they're like, oh, this is my superpower. I can influence people. Like I'm thinking like the Zuckerbergs of the world, or whatever. The Zuckerbergs. It's a group, right? It's a type. It's a personality type where you kind of go, oh, I'm above it all. I'm above the riffraff and the peasantry, and I can manipulate them based on their base desires and their want to connect. Oh, let's manipulate people because they want to be friends, or they want to make romantic connections, or they, have a weakness for they're lonely, and they're influenced by like, oh, there's a chance to make money, or there's a chance to, I want to buy this thing. I see all these people like this thing. Do I need this thing? And that's Pluto, kind of gone rogue, or it's
influences. Influence itself is a Plutonian.
Influence is Plutonian,
yes.
100%. And the desire to control people through their weaknesses or their influenceability. That's a very Plutonian thing. Yep. And you can either wield it gently and be like, I'm going to influence people in a positive way and lead by example and show them what's possible and show them that you can be influential and powerful and kind and generous, or you can just mow people down and use them and throw them away. Yeah. And everyone has to choose.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go through the aspects.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is Pluto aspects to the sun.
Yeah. So this is a very powerful position.
Yes.
This is like probably the most powerful and Plutonian. This is the person who immediately, when they enter the room, okay, the CEO has arrived, or, you carry the corner office with you at all times. Even if you're the youngest person in the room, you tend to sort of have this, people are always listening. When you speak, people tend to sort of fall silent.
Yes.
And you can use this for good or ill. And I'm not gonna bang that drum every single one we talk about, but it is one of those things where whatever Pluto touches in your chart, and this is okay. So speaking of aspects, major aspects, the conjunction, the opposition, the square, the trine, to a lesser degree, the sextile.
Yeah, that's
if you have Pluto touching any of those, you want to look at it. You want to read about it. You want to find out what it means.
More about it.
But clearly the sextile and the trine, those are soft aspects. Any aspect with Pluto is going to be intense, but with the soft aspects, it's going to be easier to integrate them into your chart. If you have the sun trine Pluto, nice, cool. You have just a bit more. It's like a little. It's like you're playing a video game. It's not power up. It's a boost. It just makes it a little easier to exert your influence. Okay. But it's not a massive part of your personality unless it's like the closest aspect in your chart. If they're like 0 degree trine. But if it's conjunct, if it's opposition, if it's a square, there's going to be some friction. You're going to have
internally.
Yes, exactly. While you figure out how to integrate this power into your chart, and it is about power. It is about the temptation to control or manipulate or to exert influence over people against their will.
Yes,
and that's
to your benefit.
And that's the key thing with the hard aspects, the conjunction, the square, and the opposition.
Yeah. So with the conjunctions, if we're talking about people who are living today, well, you're only really going to get this if you've got Pluto in what we're saying, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. If you can,
in the 1960s, it was in Virgo. Yeah, 1958-ish.
So you can only get the conjunctions for those, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the sun.
If your sun's in Aries, you're not going to have a conjunction. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Unless you were 170.
It's a powerful position. It really is. It's a powerful position because when planets are conjunction, which is within 8 degrees, it's like two Play-Doh things and they blend together. Blue and red become purple, and you can't do the separation.
Separate them. So anything that happens, any transits that happen to your sun, it's happening to Pluto as well, and vice versa.
Huge.
So it's enormous.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to glancingly mention something from the old Pluto book of Pluto here. Mm-hmm. So with the sun aspecting Pluto in the natal chart, Stephen Forrest says any link of Pluto and the sun immediately suggests that your identity, the sun, is inherently Plutonian. So these are merged powers in your chart. We must recognize that they are a single feature and that this person lives consciously and intensely. This is a person who finds superficiality uncomfortable. They tend to err in the direction of truth rather than gentleness, and they appreciate honesty and straightforwardness. They possess considerable powers of concentration and a taste for delving deeply into all things hidden, mysterious, or taboo. So that is just on the surface. That's for the good or ill. And then, it really depends on what the aspect is, if it's the conjunction or whatever. This is like, you could become a tyrant. You could become incredibly Machiavellian. You could absolutely disregard the needs and intentions and desires of other people for your own will. Or you could be that incredible power behind the throne or behind, a movement. It's like the difference between a Charles Manson and a Richard Branson.
It's personal power, isn't it?
It's power, but it depends on what you do with it.
Yeah,
and with the sun, it's going to be right there
in your face.
In your face. Mm-hmm. Major part of your personality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. So let's have a look at Pluto and the moon aspects.
Yeah, this is a rough one. I mean, and I hate to say, we all hate to say that, but
we're saying this a lot about Pluto, aren't we? But it's true.
Yeah, and really, like
emotional depth,
because the moon is your soft, fuzzy interior core. It's the part of your personality that really only comes out when someone knows you well, when they've seen you in your bare feet, as you like to say, or when you invite them over and you make food for them. And so it's that, or when they see you when you're sick, or when you've had a bereavement in your family and you're at your vulnerable, you're most vulnerable. So if you've got Pluto aspect in the moon in your chart, there's a conflict there that is it's never going to be fully integrated and comfortable for you, and probably not for anyone around you, depending on how close that aspect is. One of the keywords that comes up right away in Stephen Forrest's book is that we believe ourselves to be hard to love. Ooh. And that's, oh God, I know. I have chills just reading that, and we may feel ungrateful when we receive love. We may feel constricted about returning love. There's always going to be this conflict of like, am I being manipulated? Am I being used? Am I using someone? There's never going to be an absolute comfort in your relationships with people when they get very intimate. And this is not necessarily even romantic relationships. This is familiar relationships, because we're talking about the moon, which is to do with the mother and childhood. So there's a couple of keywords here. Your nature, your emotional nature is Plutonian. So you're incredibly capable of emotional empathy, but you totally disregard other people's boundaries. So you may judge other people incredibly harshly. You may manipulate other people without even meaning to. You may take on a motherly or fatherly role in other people's lives without even knowing that you're doing that, and play on their heartstrings or on their weaknesses simply because it's easy for you. You may just instinctively slide into a role with people where you're taking on a Plutonian sort of character to their sort of moon character. Like you might be just instinctively aware of where someone's weaknesses lie and able to take advantage of it, which is not a great way to have a human relationship. But on the bright side, if you know that about yourself, you may be able to use that in a medical sense or a consulting sense or helping people get through trauma. You may be able to use that because you can instantly, incisively see where their weaknesses are. Instead of exploiting them, you may be able to help fast track them to healing, and just say, I see that this is your weakness and that's okay because this and that, you may be able to just offer someone a healing solution to just fast track them past whatever hole they're in.
Yeah.
And that might be your superpower, but it must be wielded properly or else it's going to do more damage than good.
Yeah. Well, this is Pluto.
Yeah. It's so funny. The grimace emoji is just implied in all these, right? We're just like, we're going,
yes, it's true.
Here we are.
Well, let's have a look at Pluto and Mercury then.
Yes.
Whoa.
I mean, Mercury is always like the fun, the kind of, Gemini and sort of energy. If you've got Pluto, Mercury, this is the deep, like the investigative journalist, the one who's bringing truth to power, asking too many questions, the precocious youngster who's just like, when they're like 5 years old, like, oh, like, why are you walking like that? Or like, what's wrong with you? Or, and the mom's like clamping their hand over the kid's mouth. Like, we're not supposed to ask that, As we grow older, this could be amazing because, who doesn't love an investigative journalist TV show or a true crime podcast? These are the true crime podcasters. Or the
psychological writer, right?
Oh, my God.
True Blood or something.
We love all of that. Exactly. And there may be an inability to lighten up or an inability to just take things on the surface, a hatred of small talk.
Yes,
Yeah. But a love of the deep mysteries of human life, of horror, of psychological drama, of mystery, of catastrophes, of the disasters.
These are movies I can never watch, these psychological.
I love that.
I can't watch them.
And it's funny. I went through a phase of like, because YouTube, whatever, I don't have cable anymore for like the last 20 years. But I've gone down some YouTube rabbit holes that like the younger me would have been like, why are you watching that? And one of them was air crash disasters.
No.
Oh, the air crash disasters. Yes. And you find out like these terrible, plane crashes that happened historically and like, why did it happen? And it shows you like every single second that led up to the disaster and what little,
really,
what little flawed like bolt in the plane caused this thing to, oh God. Yeah. And you
O-ring.
Kind of think, do I need it? The O-ring on the space shuttle? Exactly. And anyone who knows what we're talking about, check.
When you know, you know.
Check your Pluto. But yes, have I read that article multiple times? Yes. Have I watched the documentary? Yes. It's fascinating because there's this compulsion, this life-death compulsion. What is it? There's some Freudian, the death, life-death urge, whatever, and someone who's a Freudian psychologist is listening going, oh my God, I can't believe you don't know that. Well, okay. But anyway, it's that Mercury-Pluto thing where it's a compulsion, but it can be used for good. And I'm not going to say for good or ill anymore. Just stop me if I say it again.
Okay, for good.
But it's implied with Pluto. It's always implied. Yeah. So Pluto and Venus. I mean, I think we talked about this a bit.
We did, because Arwynne has Pluto conjunct Venus. And to me, astrologically, when these two come together, this is the money planets. Oh, yeah. It's the money in and the money out. It's your credit and your debt. And when these come together, it gives a theme of financial focus in the life.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay.
We live in the first world. We, we live in a city. So that automatically puts us like,
But you have to work to pay the rent, so...
My God, yeah.
You're not...
I've never not
that's
worked.
That's not wealthy,
I've had a job since I was 13.
Wealthy is when you don't have to work, yeah.
Yeah, good point. So there's... And then Stephen Forrest has a couple of keywords for Pluto and Venus. Let me just say, the style of intelligence that puts human interests, motivations, and needs above all else. Venus is the connection builder, the ease bringer, and the heart softener.
Oh.
And it's intensified by Pluto. So when the goddess of love encounters the god of hell, which is Pluto, the prognosis might seem grim unless you've read a bit of, mythology in your day. So poor Venus might be ravaged and betrayed or abandoned, but as an optimist, we might say that Pluto is transformed by love and reveals a pure and trusting heart beneath the mask of sulfurous fumes.
Whoa.
So this is the Hades and Persephone romance novel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not enemies at all. They're soulmates. Pluto is always looking into the dark, and nothing motivates us and compels us to do that as much as love. So love is the great force that motivates us all. Love makes the world go around, and Pluto just intensifies that.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Exponentially.
Wow.
I mean, think about all of the great romances of all time, all the Shakespearean romances that are so...
Romeo and Juliet.
So Pluto-Venus. Oh my God, exactly. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So how about Pluto and Mars?
Right. I mean, I'm thinking... Really, so these are the ruling planets of Scorpio.
Yes.
And I remember back in the day, like maybe 2007 or something like that, we had a Pluto-Mars conjunction. And I was thinking, I mean, this is all about, this is my fashion hat on. I'm thinking all of the deep reds, the red of Mars, the red dust that we're seeing when the Mars rovers photograph Mars, and the deep wine reds of Pluto, and the dark reddish black nail polish, and right? Like that vampiric, like Dracula's cloak with black on the outside and red on the inside. This is Mars meets Pluto. So it's intense, and it can be violent, and it can be revengeful. Is that a word? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like family dramas right? Family dramas that go on for generations.
Yes.
Like those
sagas.
Yes, and the dramas that take, when two families go to war, and it's like, the Hatfield and the McCoys, or as Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Those, whatever those two houses were, the plague on both your houses. All of that is very Mars Pluto. But as right, as a person, when you bring these two forces together, there can be an incredible intensity of desire to put yourself forward. Athleticism, warlike nature, a controlling nature, a controlling in business, a desire to just always be on top, always be on the cutting edge. And it really depends on what your focus is in life, but you can harness these martial forces in a very intense way and be a leader in whatever your field is. If you have these, and if they're not like in an incredibly hard aspect, and your mileage may vary, but there is an incredible power. Like there's probably no more powerful aspect that you could have in your chart than like a positive Mars-Pluto connection.
Good.
Yeah. And I say that, but then we're getting into Jupiter and Pluto, and that is also an incredibly powerful connection, because as we've said before, I believe there is absolutely no aspect Pluto or Jupiter can make that's negative, right? Like Jupiter is going to inflate and expand and enhance any planet that it comes in contact with. And when it comes in contact with Pluto, there is an incredible optimism and hope and confidence, even in the face of the darkness and the inevitability and the intensity of Pluto. So you can become an incredibly powerful person, but for good. Like this is like
So you have this, right? You do? You've got Pluto trine Jupiter.
Oh, it's a trine. That's right. I always forget about that, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, but...
I do think you do consciously try to do things for good, because it's so easy to do things for bad.
Yes. I mean, I know I've said this before, and I think I said this in our Saturn episodes, where, when I benefit, when I prosper, everyone around me prospers. And I feel very strongly that that's the, part of my mission in life is not to hog
it all.
Not to hoard. Yeah, no, because that's lonely.
Abundance.
That's lonely. It's abundance. As soon as I'm powerful, as soon as I feel like I've mastered whatever it is. I want to share it. I want to, bring others along with me and lift all boats, like the rising tide thing. And that is, I think, a Jupiter Pluto thing, is that desire to not just barely keep your head above water and just make sure you're always above other people. It's like, no. Everyone needs to benefit from this. I've discovered something. I've learned something, I've learned how to,
that is very much you.
I've learned how to do this tax thing. Oh my God, everyone else needs to know about it or whatever. There's a loophole. My God, I need to share this information, whatever it is, right? And like, I have this knowledge and this is important. And, other people need to be able to do this too. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Saturn and Pluto.
No, it's funny because we both have an aspect from Pluto to Saturn. You've got the square and I've got the trine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about that because that's generational. Saturn only moves every 2.5 years. Pluto moves once every 20 years on average.
Yeah.
At the very least, it moves every 13 years, and at the most, it's like 30 something. So Pluto is an incredibly slow-moving generational planet. It takes 248 years to go all the way around the zodiac. Saturn is also very slow-moving. Takes 30-some years-ish, 30 to go around the zodiac. So this is a generational marker. And when you say, like, you've got the trine, I've got the square, I've read, and I'm not going to quote because it's not this book. It's not the book I have in my hand, but I believe it might be Liz Green, who said that people who have Pluto square Saturn, these are people who have almost like a Holocaust mentality built into their psyche. They are born with the knowledge that the worst of humanity is possible, which is scary. These are people who have this human sort of internalization of the worst that we can do as a species. We can perform genocide. We can,
kill people.
We can, massacres and just the absolute worst, the worst we can do. And growing up in an era where that is in your history or in your birth chart, really, it marks you. It makes you just kind of anticipate, the worst could happen. The zombie apocalypse could happen. Let me just sharpen up my skills. What can I do? And I've jokingly said, here are my zombie apocalypse skills. And maybe that's a Generation X thing too, because we like to catastrophize. But
we can all do that, yeah.
For sure. But with Pluto trine Saturn, let's look at what that does.
Yeah. What to say? It's, as I say, it's not an aspect that bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trine.
I've got other stuff to focus on in my chart than Pluto trine Saturn.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it just means that you're just no nonsense business. You're always going to run your own thing. You might have a side hustle or a side full-time job.
Multiple, but
it's never going to stop you from forging ahead with your own.
No. Lack of experience unfortunately will not stop me.
Yeah.
When we got this iteration of this podcast on, I had the idea one day. I had the first episode out the second day because I'd found Buzzsprout, and I spoke to you the third day, and we were moving.
Yeah.
Because why I don't have to hum and ha about things.
Totally.
But there are many things that come to us. Oh yes, I need to do that. Yeah. So there's a lot going on all the time. Not everything survives. Yeah. Some things get left by the wayside, and others are constantly just bubbling under. So,
that reminds me of one of my favorite memes I saw a long time ago, and this is just such a random thing, but it is also very Plutonian. Not everything will be okay, but some things will.
Yeah. And if I have to kill something off, I'll kill it off. There's
totally. Oh my God.
I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about my projects, right? And no.
And I mean, I could not name names, but definitely, there's some friends that the minute I realized they were, and I'm going to just go ahead and say, not good people, they were out of my life.
Yes.
Like a no disease, problem. Like a vaccination of, just no. The minute I realized this is a bad person, and whatever that means to me. But for me, that means they're not kind. They are not empathetic. They don't recognize the humanity in other people. And they are
Mean. Can't do with that.
Just, gross. Like, just a gross psychic energy. And the minute I recognize that, and sometimes it takes a while, unfortunately, I will admit, and I think we are all guilty of that. Like, we can be friends for different reasons with people, and suddenly you might be like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And some people let that go for a long time. At the minute I realize...
No. You draw the line with Saturn. You draw the line.
Yeah. And I have to say, my partner has been a huge help in that, because I think I might have let it go for like longer in my youth. But being with someone else who is also very Plutonian, it's like, that's a bad person. Mm-hmm. Just gone, you know? Gone.
It's true. And I think this is because Pluto can see, I don't want to say into the psyches of others. Yeah,
but there's an X-ray vision.
You think, this person's just not good enough. Well, that's how I say it. Really.
Right.
And I just can't go there. They're just not my people.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And it's definitely not about class. It's not about anything like, on the surface. It's about like their soul, their actual evolution.
Heart, yeah.
Are they evolutionarily on a positive path, or are they stuck in this, lower tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where they're just scrabbling to, manipulate others and they're
yes, I agree.
God forbid, like racist or whatever.
Or just
like
gossiping.
Gossiping, and just like not. They don't like other people really, and they're just nasty and and they can't be happy for other people's success. You know? Are they jealous and acquisitive and like just envious and oh, that person, and just nasty like that.
Well, they say, don't they? They say small minds talk about people.
Yeah.
Mediocre minds discuss events, but great minds discuss ideas.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
You got to filter people out. You can't have everyone's not going to be your friend, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
And we're not for everyone. I mean, I'm not for everyone. But if you're in my inner circle, you're in.
Oh, totally.
You know what I'm saying? And the same with you, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's that Pluto Saturn that we can draw the line and say, okay, no, this is not working.
Yeah.
And perhaps because you've got the square, you do it more. I don't know.
But I mean, some of my past friends or even romantic partners might think it was very cutthroat, possibly the way it ended. But I don't feel a need to let things linger if I've decided that it's over. It's over. So,
and I would honestly say on the other hand that it's when I'm going to cut someone loose, they don't even know it's happened. It's just Yeah, it's just not nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know. You've only got enough bandwidth for so much people and so much drama and in your life, and Pluto is the one that purges stuff that is not good for you.
That's a very good word. Yeah,
and you have to. Yeah, it's a combination of purge and draw the line
for sure.
But if you're in the inner circle or within the fold, within the walls of Saturn there, everything's fine.
Yeah, and if you're picturing walls of Saturn like the walls that you create over your compound in the zombie apocalypse, you're not wrong. It's it's those sheets of aluminum.
And I hate to say, I don't even know what the zombie apocalypse is.
What are you talking about? I know.
But anyway, you're trying to keep you're building your ranch and you put the fence up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's have a look at Pluto and Uranus.
Yeah. So this is definitely a generational aspect.
It really is.
And most people will probably not have a strong aspect between
exactly.
Uranus,
yeah.
But if you do, it's a generational marker. Pluto was conjunct Uranus in the 60s. That was a huge generational marker. And it comes around every so many years. Yeah. So
and then it was square in 2012. So you might have it if you were born in those years.
Right. Incredibly intense, incredibly powerful, and those are really influential.
Huge
energies to harness.
Huge. So we can go for years without an aspect between Pluto and Uranus. So yeah. But those ones in the 60s, even the square is a product of that conjunction. So it's the same theme for the cycle. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Pluto-Neptune has been in sextile, I believe, for like 1,000 years now. And I'm being hyperbolic, but it's. Let me get the exact years.
Yes, well, it's sextile in my chart, and it's still sextile,
and pretty much everyone's. So it basically around the middle of the Second World War.
Yeah. The last 100 years.
Yeah, the sextile began, and it will be in sextile until the 2030s, roughly.
Yeah. So it's virtually everyone. Exactly. If you have an aspect between Pluto and Neptune and you're alive today, it's going to be a sextile.
Yeah.
But it's such background noise because absolutely everybody has it.
But it's interesting that there are two very powerful and interesting planets, and it speaks to the incredible intensity of the last 100 years that we've lived through. I mean, or that, not even that we've lived through that have existed, because it's been just.
Do you not have it?
Yeah, 100% I do. Yeah, everyone that's alive since since the 1940s.
Oh yeah, we've all got it.
Yeah, I mean, and so if you think about the nature of Pluto and Neptune, it's
death and destruction, and
death and destruction, and illusion and delusion and glamour.
Yeah.
And if you think about like just the nature of the last 100 years, it's been just this nonstop cycle of novelty and media and glamour and images and changing of fashion and like recycling of fashion and just reinventing yourself and what is reality even. And the entire film industry has almost entirely existed in this cycle. The internet has existed only in this, like, it's an incredibly long cycle, but just if you look at the last 100 years and you say, what are the common things that didn't exist in other eras that were in this? That is to do with Pluto.
The movies, the cinema. Okay. And photography in general. Yeah.
Yeah. And technology, not just technology, but like connectivity, radio, television, and the internet all have to do with that. Right. So it's that thing of like the deep connection, the deep ability for technology to transform, but also to create misinformation and illusions and lies and the ability to manipulate. Yes. As soon as they had photography, they were manipulating photography. The Victorians, when you look at the Victorian, that tiny little waist, well, a lot of that was like the primitive version of Photoshop. Yes. You think, like they all had like this 16-inch waist. No, they didn't. No. They were manipulating photos back in the day, way before they even like knew what they were doing. They just, let's just cut this out. They had ghost photography back in the day. And it was just, this is an artifact of photography because you're exposing film on like these silver plates or whatever the hell it was. And, it looks like a ghost. Let's lean into that, Pluto, Neptune, and the illusion, the medium is the message, that whole thing.
And with it being the sextile, that's interesting, but not everyone in their last 100 years will have the aspect because it did go out of orb here and there. Yeah. But just about everybody has it.
Because they're such slow-moving planets.
Yeah, and it's still there today. So it's really like background noise now, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
So the very last thing we could talk about with Pluto aspects is if it is aspecting your ascendant or your midheaven or any of the four angles. And that's going to be something that right up there with the sun is incredibly influential on your chart. Yeah. If Pluto is conjunct, especially, if it's conjunct, it will be opposite the other angle and it'll be square the other two. So basically, if it's touching any of your angles, it's going to be touching all of them. Yeah. So, if that's an incredibly important thing to look at. And based on the nature of which angle it is conjunct, that's where the intensity is going to focus, but it's going to be incredibly intense on all four angles.
Yeah, if you've got Pluto conjoined the ascendant, it's bringing an outer planet into your consciousness. So it's very frequently, we say the three outer planets, they're like in the background, but if they're connected well to your chart, they definitely come forward. Yeah. And as I say, I have people in my family who've got Pluto in Scorpio on the ascendant, and by golly,
Yeah, totally.
And it's right there. Yeah. It's in your face. So,
arguably more intense than Pluto conjunct the sun, I would think.
Yeah. It's, So, you've got that, and then Pluto on the midheaven is well, depending if it's 9 or 10 house, but really it's fame.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Whether it's notoriety.
Yeah, but that powerful personality that's front and center, you're never going to feel like you have a private life.
Yes.
You're always going to feel like whatever you do is going to be noticed.
Yes.
And it probably will be.
It will be, yeah. So, it's a very, as we say, the keywords are power with Pluto. It's not forward for everyone, but if you are a Pluto type, such as what you are, and I am not really, it comes through, and it comes through in your writing and whatnot as well, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
So a few more Plutonian authors to look for.
Yes.
Obviously, Stephen Forrest.
Yes.
Donna Cunningham also wrote some brilliant books on Pluto. And Jeff Green.
Okay. You like his? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he wrote some Pluto books, a couple of Pluto books with Stephen Forrest. They were the Pluto brothers for a while.
Really?
And if you are into evolutionary astrology and the whole reincarnation aspect and that whole thing, Pluto as the hero's journey into darkness and bringing all of that darkness up into productive life. Those are some amazing books. Pluto, I think there were 2 books, Pluto, book 1 and book 2. Highly recommend.
Right.
And
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been great. We've been talking about Pluto and aspects of Pluto. We've gone over some basic themes of Pluto. We've spoken about Pluto in regard to being an aspect in each of the planets and giving you some broad overviews there of what to look for and how you could see this potential energy being expressed in your chart. You've heard it from a strongly Pluto person too, and maybe perhaps one who isn't so strongly Pluto, but as we work through the planets, that will shift. And we do have a couple of book recommendations for you. So if you found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it with anybody who'd be interested. Make sure you're getting our newsletter, and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. And additionally, make sure that you're getting Arwynne's newsletter, and she's writing, and you can find Arwynne at...
I'm at mspink.net, that's mspink.net, and I send out my weekly newsletter every Saturday. I'm writing about goddesses and art and personal nostalgia and books, etc. And I highly recommend it. It's a good read, if I do say so myself.
Yes, it is. And maybe you'll have a piece for us on Hades coming through at some point, so we can hook through to that as well on the Pluto side. Yeah. So, Arwynne, I want to thank you so much for joining me again today for this episode.
Thank you, Alison. This has been great.
Oh, it's been lovely having you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.